Hello there, I'm Matteo, the Chief Mobile Opinionist here at Tech Travel Geeks. And this is the Tech Travel Geeks setup experience video for the Vivo Y20S affordable smartphone launched in the second half of 2020. If you don't already, please do subscribe to the Tech Travel Geeks here on YouTube. Right then, so we unboxed the Vivo Y20S yesterday and gave you a walkthrough of the hardware as it comes out of the box. What we're going to do today is walk you through the setup experience on the Vivo Y20S. So, first things first, I'm going to find that SIM tray that we saw yesterday. That SIM tray is here on the left-hand side of the device when you're looking at the screen. And let's open it up. This is a really nice solution from Vivo because it gives you the convenience of expanding the storage of the device, whilst also being able to use multiple SIM cards. So you can use dual SIM and expand the storage, whilst not forgoing the choice between just the one SIM card and the two SIM cards, as happens with other devices. So I've just slotted the SIM tray back in with a memory card and one nano SIM card. Let's switch the device on and see how it turns on. Now, the power button is on the right-hand side here. So that is a power button which houses a fingerprint scanner as well. It's not entirely dissimilar to what we've seen this year from other brands, including Xiaomi and Poco, who have devices with fingerprint scanner power buttons mounted on the side of the device. So great, the device has powered on. We're now going to set the device up. I'm in the UK, so I'm going to choose English, United Kingdom. Once that's done, for some reason these review devices are selected as Germany, but thanks to Brexit, we hopefully won't have much of that as a pre-selected region. I'm going to accept the user agreement from Vivo. I suggest you thoroughly read through this before you set up any device. I have already done so, so I'm fine with that. Essentially, it just goes through how Vivo uses your information, where it gets sent to, where it gets stored, and so forth. And it gets updated throughout the year. So sometimes there are changes to these terms and conditions. You will be prompted to do that. What I'm going to do now is connect to my Planet Express Wi-Fi. And so I'm now connected. So there we go. Once we're connected to Wi-Fi, we get the option of transferring our data from another Android phone, from an iPhone, or from a Google Cloud backup. I don't want to bring data from anywhere. I want to set up this device as a new one, and that will make my overall experience better in my view. Part of the fun of getting a new phone is setting that up. I know some people may see this as an inconvenience, but I really quite enjoy that and like seeing how it changes over time as Google changes their way of changing the onboarding to their services, but also as the device manufacturers change the way they go about onboarding users, especially new users. So we've just checked for updates. I double checked that everything was still going by tapping the screen, and now it's checking extra information from Vivo and prompting me to log into my Google account. So there we are, we're signed in. I now accept the terms of service from Google. I'm logged in with my Google account, and that will give me access to all the various Google services. It may take a while to get the account info, and now it's suggesting that I restore a previous backup. You can see the most recent devices we've covered here on Tech Travel Geeks. There's quite a few of them active. I don't want to restore any of them, as we did earlier. I'll just accept the terms for Google Drive, location settings, and so forth. I do trust Google with my data. It brings me more relevant, less intrusive ads, but more importantly, ever-improving services. This is the screen that is very common in the European Union now whilst setting up a new Android device with Google services. I am going to choose Google over Microsoft Bing, info.com and Privacy Wall, but whatever suits your taste, you can change that default search engine, even after your setup. So let's continue with the setup. This will give us the Google Assistant. It's going to suggest various uses of it. I'm okay with that. Now, as I have recently set up this on other devices, I probably won't be asked to say the magic invocation for Google's Assistant service. So what I'm going to say is I agree. It will then say that it can already recognize my voice, but it may be that if you're setting this up and you haven't recently gone through the voice authentication, you might need to do that yourself. Now, interestingly, this is prompting me to enable Google Pay. I'm going to go and do that, but as far as I'm aware, the Vivo Y20S does not have NFC, so you'll only be able to use that for online in-browser or app purchases, not for paying in shops. We'll check in a moment whilst we go through the setup to see if the Vivo Y20S has NFC or not. But first things first, let's set up that fingerprint scanner. So before we do that, I need to set up a PIN number. Great, so now it's saying that I should unlock with my fingerprint. So let's start inputting. There's an extra privacy statement here about that. It's essentially saying that this information is stored securely on board the device, that your biometric data, in this case my thumbprint, won't be transmitted anywhere. It's all stored locally. So it's actually quite a reassuring statement there. So as the animation clearly indicates, we should start using our thumb to start inputting our fingerprint. So I'm going to tap the side of the fingerprints reader, and it seems to be working nicely. There's a little bit of haptic feedback there as I go through with that. And I've already scanned that area, so it's not wanting me to repeat my fingerprint, it's wanting me to gradually add further information, and that's been done. So do we want to add a face? Yes, why not? I'll just quickly enter my PIN number. So to better use facial recognition, please note the following, and let's start to add. And just as with the previous information, it means that the data won't be transferred to any third parties or any other services. Now, obviously I won't be unlocking using my camera, that's not a face. I will be unlocking using my actual face. There we go, that was pretty fast. And so now it's going to say that you can update the system and main apps, and I'm okay with that. In my experience, Vivo devices in 2020 have very little in the way of bloatware pre-installed, as we saw on our previous video unboxings and setups for the Vivo X51 5G and the Vivo Y70. So here we are. We are now connected to my Wi-Fi and we're already on the home screen. And the first thing that comes to view is obviously that big screen. This is a 6.51 inch display and the colors are really, really vivid. The default settings in terms of DPI, so the density of pixels and information, are quite pleasant. One thing I would say is it's not immediately apparent that this is an HD Plus screen. That means that it's only 720 pixels by 1600. That makes it a 20:9 aspect ratio screen. It is a lovely, lovely screen. It really looks good. So let's have a walk around the launcher. So as you can see, two home screens, and the panel at the left will be our panel for search. So this is very similar to the Google-like experience. Let's see. Can't refresh Discover at the moment, which is interesting. Oh, so this is now prompting me to set up various services with my SIM card. But in the meantime, let's check and see how the update of the apps in the Google Play Store is going. So there's a few downloading, download pending, and suggested updates, which also show us that there are some pre-installed apps. Most likely these are not too bad ones. Now, swiping up from the bottom of the home screen gives us the app drawer. So this is an even more Google-like experience, or Google Pixel-like experience in terms of launcher. And here we see all the apps installed. So as well as the usual Google ones, we have things like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and that's pretty much it. All the rest are default apps. Or actually, here's YouTube Music, but that's part of the Google pack, so nothing too exciting here. But the majority of people will probably be wanting to have Instagram and Facebook installed on their devices. So well done from Vivo for having a relatively clean and bloatware-free opening experience. So what we've done now is seen the launcher. Let's see if this is refreshing now by pulling down. I should be connected to the internet. Interesting. So it's not updating just yet. It may require an update in Google Play. So that's happening in the background. In the meantime, let's have a look at the notification tray. And very Google-like experience. Nothing too exciting here. Let's go into the settings and see our settings menu. It is pretty smooth and responsive here. It's not a high refresh rate screen. It's just a standard IPS LCD display. At this price point, under €200 or under £200, you wouldn't expect a higher refresh rate screen. But let's have a look at the display settings and see if there's a dark theme. Yes, there is, which is great to see, because this Vivo Y20S is running FunTouch OS. I kid you not, that's what it's called, FunTouch OS, which is running on top of Android 10, or it's based on Android 10. So when you enable dark mode, in this case, it goes throughout all the relevant apps that will pick that up. So in this case, we've gone into the Google Play Store. I'm installing the COVID protection test and trace app, Protect Scotland, that we use here in Scotland. And in the background, there's more updates happening. So I'm going to, sometimes it stops and I need to start it again. Click Update All. We'll see what happens there. And you can see dark mode has been applied in the settings menu. More important than that, I'm seeing that AC Milan, 15 minutes into their game against Naples in Naples, are drawing 0-0. So here we are. We're in the app, in the launcher with dark mode. My Google feed has updated and is now in dark mode. And you can see that I have my usual news feed, which is adapted and based on relevant information to what I have searched for or read in the news recently. So you can see the weather widget is as expected. But let's look at a few other things in the Vivo Y20S. So we had a very fast look at the settings menu. Let's go a bit more in depth and look at the system settings that we have. So on the Vivo Y20S, as you can see, we have the default back, home and multitasking buttons. Let's see what the other options are. You can also choose gesture navigation, which is really quite cool. So you have the option of gesture navigation, as we've seen on other devices, but more importantly, you can also hide that navigation bar at the bottom. So if you don't want it, there we are. And I have got used to it. It does taking a bit of getting used to, but gesture navigation has its place, especially with larger screens where you may not be able to reach the top. You can use gestures to pull down that notification pane. Quite cool being able to do that. And overall, in my experience, it is a good thing, but it takes a while of getting used to. Now, in the unboxing, we had a quick walkthrough of the cameras. So the front-facing selfie 8 megapixel camera and the rear-facing 13 megapixel camera with its two 2 megapixel sensors. One is macro and one is a depth sensor. We'll be covering this more in the full review of the Vivo Y20S. But one of the key features that the Y20S has, and I think is worth calling out, is it keeps the Courage port, or the 3.5mm audio jack. So well done to Vivo there. Bizarrely, it has micro USB for charging. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because as we saw in the unboxing video, the Vivo Y20S comes with an 18-watt charger. So it is a fast charging device. It's just strange that it's micro USB. So well done on Vivo there at throwing us a bit of a curveball. The battery in the Vivo Y20S is a 5000 mAh battery. This device does not feel as if it has a 5000 mAh battery in there. But that 5000 mAh battery promises to be very, very good in terms of battery life, because it's powering a Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset. In this case, it's the same chipset as we saw in the Nokia 3.4 and the OnePlus Nord N100. That's the Snapdragon 460 chipset. So in terms of battery size and its efficiency, that's pretty astounding. We'll see how it performs. Obviously, this is just on paper. I haven't had much of an experience, apart from what you've seen here on video is setting up the phone. But it seems to be quite snappy, and we'll need to put it through some proper battery intense sessions to be able to give you more information about that. So we've seen it has dark mode. Let's see if there's any other particularly interesting tidbits of information here. So the code name for this stock keeping unit is V2027, so 2027. So there's 4 GB of RAM, as we saw in the unboxing, and 128 GB of storage, which is expandable with a microSD, as I have done so. That Snapdragon chipset, the code name is 4250, the SM4250, which is marketed as the Snapdragon 460. FunTouch OS 11 Global. So that's the Android distribution that, as we've seen, is very, very similar to the Google experience, and it's based on Android 10. So interesting, there's a CPU real-time data bit that shows you all those wonderful cores working all together. So you can see that they're all scaling according to need and upping and downing their speed. So they all seem to be around about between 1 and 2 gigahertz constantly. That's a really cool baked-in feature of the Vivo Y20S FunTouch OS. Right then, so we've been through some key walkthroughs here. One thing that we said we wanted to look at is there NFC on this device? Okay then, so my battery died there, but luckily our Chief Aperture Officer, Lukasz, will be able to masterfully make the continuity of this video continue. So we were just checking for NFC. I'm going to search for that, and sadly there's no settings for NFC on the Vivo Y20S. So bear that in mind. You can add Google Pay, but you won't be able to use it for contactless payments. That is quite a bit of a disappointment in the Vivo Y20S, but then again, some people may not actually want that feature. So that was the overall setup of the Vivo Y20S. Keep an eye on the Tech Travel Geeks YouTube channel, where we will soon be doing our full review of this new device as it comes to Europe. If you're subscribed to the Tech Travel Geeks, you're more likely to see that in your YouTube feeds. You'd also be supporting us by subscribing. So thank you for watching this video. I'll carry on just moving the Vivo 20S around so that you get to see how shiny it is. And thanks for watching.